Okay, so this horse that's here at the barn temporarily is a cribber. So a cribber means that they sort of latch their teeth onto usually wood, but they'll do plastic. They really don't like metal. One of the ways you can deal with a cribbing horse is to put like a metal strip over the wood that he could reach. That in order to crib, their head has to be this high or higher. When the pole up here, when the top of the head is below the withers, it's physically impossible for them to crib. So there's a lot of things you can do if your horse is a cribber, which means they latch their teeth onto something. They don't really chew the wood. They latch their teeth on and they suck wind, right? So the real damage is really to the horse. It's not as much property damage as a horse that's just chewing wood. So all horses chew wood. And it can be, chewing wood means they're basically just chewing holes like in the top of your fence line, or like on sort of this tongue and groove, they might chew on the wood. Sometimes it can mean a mineral deficiency, sometimes it can mean their teeth need to be done, but a lot of horses chew wood and don't crib. Cribbing is specifically wind sucking, and it becomes a habit. So a lot of people are prejudiced against cribbers because the old wives' tale is that it was contagious from horse to horse to horse. A horse that wasn't a cribber will pick up the habit of cribbing if they're next to a cribber in the same barn. That has been proven not to be true. The modern research on cribbing shows that most horses crib because it's related to poor digestion, stomach ulcers, nutritional deficiencies. So it's more related to nutrition or digestive issues than it is a habit that's going to spread from one horse to the next. So the reason we use cribbing collars, this is a cribbing collar that's called the Miracle Collar. This horse has worn it quite a bit, so we put a little fleece lining over the part that goes around the forehead. A lot of cribbing collars will have this groove, which fits directly between the jaw bones at the base of the neck, right behind the head. So that little groove puts pressure when they windsuck. It makes it uncomfortable for them to fully open up their windpipe and really suck wind. It'll create a little bit of pressure there. With the Miracle Collar, the difference is this extra strap that goes over the front. And it's one of the most highly recommended cribbing straps, or cribbing collars as they call them, because it's pretty effective. But if you go on the internet on how to fit it and how to put it on, almost everybody on the internet will say this piece, which is going to fit, let's turn his head a little bit, that piece is going to fit right there at the throat latch, which is the narrowest part of the neck, right behind the round jawbone, right? So the back strap is going to fit that in there. Everything on the internet, if you go looking around for how to fit a Miracle Collar or a cribbing strap, they'll say that if they crib, if they continue to suck wind when the strap is on, that you tighten up this part that goes around the throat. If you actually go to the website for the people who manufacture the cribbing collar, they'll say you should easily get 2 fingers in there, right? So even when his head is up, it's a tiny bit loose until I put the front strap on. It just has to be tight enough that this part can't get past the jaw, right? So I have it on the 3rd hole. I might take it just to the 4th hole. I can still, with his head up, get a finger or 2 easily between, like right between the jaw bones where that little extra thickness is. So that's probably plenty tight on his throat, right? So I'm going to buckle that in. The reason the Miracle Collar works is because when their head is level or below the withers, they physically cannot suck wind. They cannot crib if their head is kind of level to the withers or below. So what this front strap does And to put it on through the halter, I'm going to run it underneath the halter. It goes across the forehead. I always pick up the forelock. Across the forehead, right? And then it gets buckled to the front buckle. So if they crib, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? That's a little snug with his head up. I'm going to go to 5. And as long as his head is up, the front strap is creating pressure across his forehead. It's that discomfort that as they lift their head, both the throat part and especially the part across their forehead become tighter. So that pressure on their head doesn't make cribbing impossible unless you have it really tight, but it will make it uncomfortable when they lift their head. So it encourages them not to lift their head, which is what they have to do in order to physically crib, right? So that's about the setting I have it on. And with his head here, I can easily get one finger in there. It's snug, but it's not super tight. The lower he puts his head, the looser that gets. So he has to find relief from the collar itself. A lot of people will put the collar on so tight that whether the head is up or down, they never get relief. So they're going to crib because the cribbing can release endorphins. So if they have a pain issue, if they have stomach ulcers, yes. And so just sitting here, encouraging him to put his head down. You can see now that's very loose when the head is low. But it's not loose enough that that bottom strap is going to come out. So then in his stall and in his turnout, in the turnout we have water troughs where he has to go down to drink the water. So we took the buckets out of his stall that were hanging about this level and we put in a muck tub that we secured to the stall wall. So he has to really put his head down to get all of his water. And we put a feed tray on the floor. So his hay, his grain, and his water, he has to reach down like that. And whenever he puts his head that low, the collar is so loose, he gets complete relief from the collar. So when he's starting to lift his head like that, now it's getting tighter. So even with his head in this position, and as he puts the head higher and higher, both straps get tighter and tighter. So part of the key is they're going to crib because you need to investigate if they have ulcers, if they need a diet change. The grain can aggravate it. So like when this horse came in as a cribber, we put him on alfalfa pellets soaked instead of grain because the alfalfa will create a natural stomach buffer effect. So grain can upset the tummy in some horses, and so you could put him on a straight hay diet. He gets a little bit of senior and he gets extra nutrition. We also put him on probiotics and some digestive support to see if it was digestive related that we could address through nutrition and supplements. The other thing we're going to do with him, but now that he has the relief, when he puts his head low, this is so loose, right? So every time he lowers his own head, he gets relief from the pressure of the collar. A lot of people on the internet will tell you that it should be tight no matter where they put their head. But once you understand that they physically can't crib, they have to put their head up in order to suck wind. They can chew wood with the head down or the head up. That's totally different. They're not sucking wind. But if they're wind suckers, which is technically cribbing, then they have to put the head up to do that. So every time he puts his head down, he gets complete relief from this collar. That's how it's supposed to work. And if you have questions, go to the manufacturer's website and look for the instructions, because there's a lot of information on the internet that was just dead wrong. And it's repeated enough, we think it's right. But go to the manufacturer, get the fitting instructions for your particular collar. And this one is quite good. It's a leather collar. We just put a little fleece covering over the front one to make it more comfortable on his forehead. Cribbers hurt themselves more than they hurt the property, and they really don't affect any of the other horses in the barn. I'm not afraid to take a cribber in my barn. It's not going to spread cribbing That's such an old wives' tale, right? It's also, I've never seen a horse that cribs not crib. So we might follow this horse a little bit because we're doing the research, we're addressing everything. He may stop cribbing, he may not. He may have to wear this collar his whole life, so we don't want it to give him a headache or restrict his breathing or his circulation right here at the jugular vein, right? And right on the throat. So changing his diet to reduce any digestive stress and giving supplements to enhance digestion are the first things we're addressing. He was treated for ulcers in the past. That's something to keep an eye on. We could also do blood work to sort of find out what his blood chemistry is and see if there's any imbalances in his blood chemistry. Blood work will give you a picture of the horse that day, maybe that week at the most. There's a lot of nutritionists that also do hair samples. And so if you can find a nutritionist, that's our plan for him, to do a hair sample. A hair sample shows you the body's chemistry over time. So we've changed his diet, we've changed his supplements, we got the instructions on the collar. He still tries to crib, but now the collar is only activate while he's cribbing, and it's been pretty mild. So we put metal strips on the stall every place he could crib. The metal will deter it because they don't like their teeth on the metal. So the metal, they really prefer to crib on wood surfaces. So if you put like a metal strip over the wood surface, they don't like that on their teeth, and so that will also inhibit the cribbing a little bit. Or you could cover it with like small no-climb wire, something like that, or chicken wire. You could put anything over the edges of the wood where he's likely to get his grab with his teeth and start sucking wind. So nutritionally, the next step for him is to do a hair sample, because one nutritionist I spoke with said it can be a vitamin E or a selenium deficiency that perpetuates the cribbing. The reason we don't want him to crib is not because of the other horses, not because of damage to property, but because when they crib, they can wear out, and he has kind of tiny teeth anyways, his very tiny teeth. So the cribbing will actually wear down the teeth. They can wear down their teeth to absolute nubs. And so you can see this horse has exceptionally small teeth. That can be from cribbing, that they just keep wearing down the teeth smaller and smaller. And the other damage is when they're sucking wind, they're getting air in the digestive system, which makes them more prone to gas colics or bringing air into the gut. So the gut, a healthy gut, is an anaerobic environment. All of the good gut bacteria thrives in an oxygen-free gut environment. So wind sucking is bringing oxygen into the gut, which makes it more hospitable to the bacteria that's not healthy for the gut. So like your E. coli, all that are aerobic bacterias, and the healthy gut is an anaerobic environment. So that's how the wind sucking can kind of be related to colic. So again, as he puts his head up, this is tighter. When he puts his head down, can we do that? Not right now. That's when the collar's going to loosen up. But at least we've seen him go up and down enough. You can see on those settings, it's pretty tight, even with his head here level to the withers, right? So he can crib sort of well in this head and neck alignment to his back, but really they prefer to have their head above the withers. So the poll and even the mouth above the withers, that's where they're most comfortable cribbing. That's where they kind of have to be in order to crib. So all of those different tips are for discouraging cribbing. I've never seen a cribber not crib, but I've heard it's possible. So we're going to find out with him. In the meantime, at least that cribbing strap is only working when his head is in a position where he could crib. And so it's teaching him 24/7 that he has no pressure on his forehead or his neck if he chooses to put his head low. He gets a constant positive reinforcement for not cribbing and putting his head in a position where he can't crib.